All right, welcome everyone. Today we're going to take a tour of the absolute building blocks of life, cells. But, forget those boring textbook diagrams. We're going to imagine them as these incredible, bustling little cities to really get how they work. So, you ready? Let's dive in. Okay, let's kick things off with a little puzzle for you. Think about it. What could a giant oak tree and, say, a tiny little pug possibly have in common? I mean, one just stands there, right, soaking up the sun, making its own food. The other's running all over the place, chasing squirrels. They seem totally different, but they share this one super fundamental thing. What do you think it is? If you guessed cells, you got it. They're both built from cells. And we're not talking about just some simple little blobs here. Oh no, these things are like these amazing, super organized, microscopic cities. They've got their own infrastructure, their own power grids, the whole deal. So yeah, this cell city idea, that's going to be our map for this whole tour. So think about any real city. It needs a city hall, it needs borders, it needs power plants to keep the lights on, right? Well, it turns out our little cell cities, both plant and animal, are exactly the same. So let's check out the essential departments, we call them organelles, that they both have to keep everything running smoothly. First stop, City Hall, or in the science world, the nucleus. This is the big boss, the absolute command center of the whole operation. It's holding all the city's master plans, that's the DNA, and it's barking out orders that control literally everything, from building new stuff to making energy. I mean, without the nucleus, total chaos. Okay, so what about security at the city limits? That's where the cell membrane comes in. You can think of it like a super strict bouncer at a club. It decides who gets in, the good stuff like nutrients, and who gets kicked out, like all the waste. This control is absolutely crucial for keeping everything inside the city balanced and safe. You can't have a city without power, right? It would just be dark and dead. Well, in Cell City, the mitochondria are the power plants. These things are just incredible energy-converting machines. They take in fuel and they crank out this super high-energy molecule called ATP. And that ATP, that's the juice that powers every single thing the cell does. And, every city needs a place to store stuff. Supplies, water, even trash. That's the job of the vacuoles. They're basically the city's storage units or warehouses. They can hold all sorts of things. Now, keep these guys in the back of your mind because, as you're about to see, the size of these warehouses makes a huge difference between our two types of cities. Okay, so we've seen all the stuff that these cities have in common. Now we get to the really cool part, the stuff that makes them unique. It's like different city zoning laws, and these architectural differences we're about to dive into, they're what make a plant cell and an animal cell an animal cell. This is where it gets really interesting. All right, take a look at this. This chart basically lays out the blueprints for both cities, side by side. See? You've got check marks for the things they both have, like the cell membrane and the nucleus. But look closer. See these key differences? The cell wall and these things called chloroplasts? Only in the plant city. And hey, there's that note about the vacuole again. I told you we'd get back to it. So that chart was a great overview. But now, let's zero in on the three big, game-changing differences. These are the structures that completely change how each city lives and works. First up, and this one is only in Plant City, we have the cell wall. Imagine a massive, super strong fortress built right outside the main city border. Animal cells, they don't have this, because they need to be flexible and move around. But for a plant that has to stand tall against wind and gravity, this wall is everything. It provides all that structure and support. Okay, next up. Plant City has its own food source built right in. How cool is that? They're called chloroplasts. These are basically tiny solar-powered factories. They take sunlight and, through a process called photosynthesis, turn it into sugar, food. This makes plant cells completely self-sufficient. They're producers. Animal cells, on the other hand, don't have these, so they have to go out and find food. They're consumers. Okay, remember those storage warehouses, the vacuoles? Well, in Plant City, it's not a bunch of small ones. There is one giant central one, the large central vacuole. It's less like a warehouse and more like a massive water tower in the middle of the city. When that thing is full of water, it pushes out against that strong cell wall, and that's what keeps the plant standing up straight and rigid. It's also why a plant wilts when you forget to water it. Its giant water tower is running empty. So we've got a city that makes its own food and a city that has to import it. But wait a minute, How does Plant City actually get the energy from its solar-powered food factory over to all the other buildings that need power? Let's follow the energy supply chain. And this is a really important question because it really shows you how the cell's whole economy works. You've got the chloroplast, that's the factory making the fuel, the sugar, and you've got the mitochondria, the power plant that needs to burn that fuel. So how do they cooperate? How does that handoff work? It's actually a pretty simple and brilliant system. Here's how it goes down. Step 1. The chloroplast factory uses sunlight to make sugar. Boom, food is made. Step 2. That sugar gets shipped, you can think of it like a fuel truck, across the city over to the mitochondria. And step 3, the mitochondria take that sugar, burn it up, and convert it into that usable energy, ATP. It's this perfect, seamless assembly line of energy. Just amazing. Okay, as we start to wrap up our tour, let's step back and look at the big picture, the master plan. All these differences we've seen, the walls, the solar factories, the giant water towers, none of this is random. It's all there for a reason, and it points to one of the biggest, most important ideas in all of biology. And here it is. This is the main takeaway. In biology, structure determines function. The way something is built is perfectly designed for the job it has to do. A plant cell is built like a rigid, self-powering fortress because its job is to be a rigid, self-powering fortress. An animal cell is flexible and has to find food because that's its job. The design, the structure, it all fits the purpose perfectly. So if you're going to remember just one thing, remember this. Animal cells are flexible consumers. Plant cells are rigid producers. That's it. Two totally different blueprints for two totally different ways of living. And that brings us to one last thing to think about. Now that you know how much structure matters for function, what do you think would happen to a whole plant if, poof, all its cells suddenly lost their cell walls? Think about it. It really makes you realize just how important every single part of Cell City is. Hey, thanks so much for coming on this tour with me.